right, anagnorisis. How many of you have heard the word anagnorisis? Well, my husband, thank you. Anagnorisis is the critical moment of discovery or recognition. Now, it's in ancient Greek tragedy. So today, welcome to my stage of Greek tragedy. I would like to introduce you to my players. First, we have Matt Landau of VRMB.com and the Unlocked podcast. His viewpoint today is that of limited edition. Next is Suneel Goud of Guest View Guide. His viewpoint is the tech and the in-stay experience. Then I have David Angotti, SmokyMountains.com, but he also brings the viewpoint of the PM who scales, and he went from there to the niche listing sites. Then Arthur Colker, StayFi, the viewpoint of tech and email marketing. And myself, Tyann Marcink, I'm with TouchStay, digital guidebooks, as well as 2 boutique property management companies. My viewpoint is tech and the property manager who is in the trenches with you. So today, I hope you have anagnorisis, that critical moment of discovery or recognition from our conversation as well as throughout the conference. So I will ask you at the end if you have had that critical moment, the anagnorisis. All right. First question is going to Suneel. What do you think is one of the biggest mistakes that PMs make that trigger a guest not to become a repeat guest?
So I think one of the biggest mistakes that people do is they don't get that guest to book before they actually leave the place, and so they try to get that person to be a repeat customer after they're already gone. And I think there are a few things that you need to do in order to make sure that they rebook before they leave. And so first of all, most importantly is to make sure that they have a great stay. And but I think once you do that, you also have to make sure that you have a compelling offer that the guests are gonna, it's gonna kind of get them to want to come back. Number 2, you got to get it in front of them, and so having the right tools and other things to get it in front of them. And then I think it has to be time bound, right? So because it's like if they feel like they can walk away and make that decision at a later date, and they're kind of out of that moment, you often lose them. And so I think kind of getting them when they're in the heat of the moment, and they kind of remember that they're like feeling that great experience that they're having, and getting them to act at that time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
David, what is a big mistake you have seen? Just something very, very pointed that you see a lot happen, and the guest is like, no, never again.
I think the biggest single mistake that I made as a property manager, and I see other people make, is losing sight that this vacation is something that people saved up for all year. This is their moment. They had dreams about this vacation, and it's not just the TV not working or the hot tub not working. It's them failing as a husband or a dad. It's about this not fulfilling their dreams. And so that's where, if you can't fix the dream, then you aren't going to get them as a repeat guest.
Yeah, that's totally right. So let's switch to the positive. Matt, what do you think is one of the biggest factors to drive a guest to book again?
Drive a guest to book again.
With the specific property or property manager.
Well, first you have to floss. I think over-automating, to answer the last question, over-automating things is a very quick turnoff. When I was managing my properties, my instinct is that we got to automate everything because technology can do all that. And we ended up, in some cases, missing out on the chance to actually interact with folks. I think the one thing that everybody here can do is to show up to physically have some kind of interaction. Maybe it means going to the property. Maybe in some cases it's just a bit of virtual communication, like text messaging is a huge one. So just kind of proactively having that connection. I think if you do that, you end up forming a little bit more of a friendship, as opposed to the ones that you just feel kind of like you're being a robot talked to.
Absolutely, and that's a good point, the communication. The other day, someone asked me, how many points of communication do you have between booking and arrival? And I went through and I counted every single touch point, and I counted 14. So 14 different ways I touch my guests between the point of booking and the point of arrival. Now, we're not even talking about before they book or after they book as well, which brings me to Arthur. So same question, what's one of the big factors that drives a person to book with the exact same property or property manager?
Yeah, well, I'm going to disagree a little bit because I think you can do automation with the illusion of personalization. So we see a lot of folks who automate emails, let's say, which is what I'm here to talk about, but they'll automate emails sent from a human, from a real inbox, from a person, personalized with that person's name, the property they stayed in. So I think there's a lot of technology today that allows you to automate with the illusion of personalization without actually having to go in and type out emails or go text the guest yourself. So I think there's a lot of ways to do that very intelligently, where people think you're really having a one-to-one conversation with them, even if it's automated with technology.
For my newsletter, sometimes people will respond, they're like, did you send this just to me? Or did this go to everybody? And I said it went to everybody. And that makes me feel bad. That makes them feel bad. It's like they were fooled.
I have the same thing, though, because I have the automated, but my short codes drop in their name. But I think the point is we have been able to target our guests so much that we have the right guests for the right property so they feel like we are talking specifically to them. Because I'll have those automated emails go out, one of those touch points, and I'll get a reply. Because I also ask a question. Did you open our digital guidebook yet? It has this, this, and this. And they'll reply, yes, we love it. We're so looking forward to our stay. Thank you for checking in on us. I don't do a thing. I set it up, I automated it, it's done.
Can I weigh in on that real quick?
I was going to ask you a question, but go ahead.
So persona-based marketing is such an effective way to convert at a higher rate, and I absolutely agree that you can scale it. And so even back in property management, we were a very streamlined team, and one of the things we did was anybody that had a pet that was coming to a property or that was inquiring about a property, they got an email that looked extremely personal with a picture of me and my pet. And then it was like, hey, here's some resources, just so you know. I know these guys that own a doggy daycare. They're really cool guys. They keep Raleigh every time we're out of town. It's not like in kennels. It's in a big yard. Here's the trails you can take your dog on, the restaurants you can take them to. It was all automated. But so many people would write back. And then the response they got from me after that was not automated.
I love it. Yeah,
If you don't mind if I weigh in real quick.
I don't mind at all.
I think one other big thing that I would say is, like, you mentioned the 14 touch points, and I think, like, the PM getting their brand across, because I think there are a lot of people still today that go and stay in they book through Airbnb or VRBO, and they just think that experience was provided by that OTA. And so I think, like, looking at those touch points and, making sure that they realize that it is you, the property manager, that's providing that phenomenal experience. And a lot of times when, guests are booking, people go on vacation a couple weeks a year, and they want to make sure that that experience is going to be great. And they're taking a risk every time they book. And so I think, like, them knowing, hey, if I go book with this PM again, I'm going to get this kind of experience. And I think, like, doing something like that can really help get them to rebook with that PM.
Suneel, that is one of my points here, brand voice. Yeah. Excellent, thank you. If you're not pushing your brand and you're speaking in your brand voice, you are losing out on those repeat guests because they're not remembering you. It's when that guest comes back and says, hey, these are our dates. I don't care what property you have. Dates, people, tell me what you got because I want to be with you. So, Arthur, what are some important tools that support or heighten the guest experience delivery or help a guest to book again?
Yeah, I think one really important point to make first is We say guest, and I think that's often synonymous with booker, but I think we have to step back and realize we need to approach and brand ourselves to everybody staying in the property, and make sure that your brand is reaching all those people, because the person who booked and entered the credit card may not have even been the trip decision maker. Someone else may have picked out the home, said like, hey, let's book this one, and then they booked it. But if you're not remarketing to that first person, you're gonna really miss out on potentially your next direct booking when they end up going back to Airbnb to look for their next rental. So going back there, all those in-house tools, because once the party's in your home, that's when you can finally reach all the individuals that are there, because you can't do that through the OTA. So things like our product with marketing through Wi-Fi, Suneel's Guest View Guide, where everybody can look at this guidebook and interact with different features in the property. TouchStay, another great example where you're getting that guidebook for the home in front of every single person that's staying there. So all these types of products, in-home branding, we see a lot of people doing, takeaways, flyers, cards. Anything to put your brand in front of everybody staying in the rental is really gonna help you build awareness with the entire booking party, not just the original booker of the home.
Thank you. Well, I had Suneel and I down as well, but Arthur, you covered it. So, but that case, I do want to ask Matt, with limited edition, what are some in-home guest experience things that we can do with our brand and to get the entire group to come back and know that we're the brand, not Vrbo or Airbnb?
I think it's really the same line of thinking as the last few comments. It's you got to tell them, and then tell them again the name of the company and what makes you special and different. And it sounds like redundant. I recently paid a copywriting specialist $700 for 1 hour. I have been following him for years. He's got an amazing podcast, and I was like, I'm finally ready to pull the trigger because I need help with this particular copywriting challenge. And in $700 worth of 1 hour, what he told me was just say the thing like 3-4 times in the same paragraph. Use that word, family, 4 times. And you'll be really surprised that people start reading it and they're like, oh yeah, we love the fact that you're a family. That's not rocket science, but oftentimes we presume people know that it's our brand. So I would just tell them all the time, any chance you get. In terms of experiences, it's a little bit different for everybody, I think. I think we can set the stage for nice experiences. I love anything that revolves around the kitchen of a vacation rental. I think that's a vacation rental superpower. So maybe recipes that they can make, introduction to food delivery services, special local food stuff that can be shared. I think anything that revolves around the kitchen, that typically a hotel can't compete with that. It's a good experience.
Thank you. I know with myself, we're small, so we can do this, is we have a bag on the counter on arrival, and it's branded with our logo, but it's not just any bag. We're at a lake destination, so it's a dry bag. And we have a note with it, and every line of the note corresponds to something in the bag. There's a bag of local coffee. Wakey, wakey, for your time at the lakey. Just making sure it's cute, it's memorable, and again, signed by my husband and I and our brand. So they're mentioning in their reviews our names, they know us, they've put a face to the brand as well. But I know that can scale. However, David, how can someone scale even better?
I think that scale is somewhat of an overused term, especially when we're starting to think about getting another booking from the same person. It's like scale is so impersonal, and I think about like how we scaled it was lots of hours late at night when we were in property management. So that's not like what people typically think of with scale. So I'll give an example. Every guest that stayed at our rental, we came up with this idea that when they got back home from vacation, we wanted them to have branded coffee mugs, Yetis, different things from us with a note. And the value of the box that went out was, it was tied to the value of the booking for sure. But they'd get back home and they'd have a handwritten note. It was before the machines were handwriting, so my handwriting got sloppier and sloppier as we grew. We'd send these out and they'd get home, and it ties into surprise and floss that you were talking about yesterday. And they were surprised to have this because they didn't book because this was coming. This was just an added benefit. They get home, it's there, and what we would find is that would drive repeat bookings. It would also mitigate negative reviews because they get home and maybe something went wrong. And now they have a handwritten note from me. It's hard to go torch me on a review site. I'm no longer this big brand that's hiding behind a computer. I'm a person that wrote a note to them and sent them something in the mail. And so there was direct value, both from a review standpoint as well as direct bookings.
There's a machine called Magic Writer, which will write the letters for you. It's expensive, but you can scale it.
I was poor and hustling.
All right, I have one more question for my panel, and this is for each of you to answer, and then we're going to turn it over to you all. Okay, we'll start with Arthur. What is one action, just one, that a PM could take to help create or solidify guest loyalty?
Have great Wi-Fi. I think now, I mean, really, it's very seriously, I mean, working remotely is so big, and having people come to the rental property and the internet doesn't work is like the worst thing that can happen. And that will cause immediate calls, text messaging. So just being aware and understanding how your Wi-Fi is performing and what you can do to improve reliability, I think is definitely going to win you people that want to come back again and again.
Thank you. David?
I'd say use content marketing as a flywheel that brings people back in over and over again. One practical example of that, as a listing site, that can be difficult to achieve at scale. One of the things we do is when somebody is in market on a rainy day, we have automated an email process, again, that feels personal, that hits them with an email. Here's the things to do on a rainy day in our market because we don't want this day of your vacation wasted, and we know it sucks. And so you use things like that to give a positive brand experience while they're having a negative experience. But then you also get to drop a cookie on them and remarket 180 days later when they're likely to rebook. And so it's like that combination of those different marketing tactics all rolled into one to bring them back.
Excellent. Suneel?
I think having something that kind of surprises and wows the guest at the end of their stay. So, for example, it could be something like a gift basket on departure, right? And it's something that it's unexpected and it kind of wows them, and that kind of memory of that, it actually acts as a filter for all the stuff that happened before, and they start remembering oh my God, all these great little things that this property manager did. And so I think leaving on that really positive note can have a huge impact.
Absolutely. Matt?
The digital handshake is one of my favorite techniques. Elaine, you know all about it. It's very simply a video that you record of yourself in front of a webcam. I'd recommend you buy a nice Logitech webcam. The Brio is $150 and it looks like super high quality. Sit in front of your computer, you say, hello, long time no see, it's Matt from Los Cuatro Tulipanes in Panama. Just checking in and would love to see you sometime soon. You upload that video into your private video hosting, or you could even use YouTube. You then embed a screen capture of the first pane of the video with the play button. It's a JPEG inside of the email. So when they click it, it leads over to this landing page where the actual video with your personalized message is hosted. The digital handshake, connecting with these guests virtually, and using StayFi to build your list. The bigger your list is, if you're sending out these kinds of evergreen digital handshakes, the more results you get.
And I might add that you can put that YouTube video in your digital guidebook as well. My one tip actually comes from one of the podcast guests. I don't know if you know, Touch Stay started a podcast. It's called The Guest Cast, where we interview travelers. And we ask them about a travel point that shifted something in their life. And then Andy and I talk about how we as property managers and hosted owners can then apply those lessons to what we're doing. And this one comes from Alyssa Sincata, a photographer, high-end luxury, and she's very much into the Louis Vuitton experience. And part of the Louis Vuitton experience is simply they say your name. They know who you are. So my big tip to you guys, the one good takeaway, is say your guest's name and always respond as quickly as possible. It can turn any negative experience into a positive when you don't let it sit and fester for 10 minutes. Instead, you're responding by the way they communicated you. If they texted you, you text right back. Even if it's, hey, the grill's not working correctly and it's smoking, well, honestly, it's user error. But instead I say, hey, Grill Master Nat will be calling you in 10 minutes. And that's what you do. And you say their name. So I hope maybe you guys have had some critical moment of discovery at this time, but also this is the point where you can ask any of us questions, please do, and maybe we'll help you find further critical points of discovery or an analysis.
It's not necessarily a question, but two things I wanted to share. Sorry. Thank you, ma'am. The first was about the personal contact with the guest. This morning, sitting in this room, I got a text from a guest who stayed with us 3 years ago, he booked through Airbnb, and he's coming back, and he remembered. He saved my number, and he reached out and said, I remember you said I could book directly with you. That happened today, which made me feel just awesome, very exciting. The other thing is the combination of the personal touch and the automation. We're with Track, and we also use Breezeway. We just recently started using Breezeway messaging, and it's amazing. We have the auto email that goes out the day that they're driving, reminding them the code, check-in, all of that. Then we have another one that goes out a few hours after they've arrived to make sure everything's okay. And then they'll ask a question, and we're responding to it nonstop. So even though they're getting the auto texts, they're always getting a personal response. If there's anything wrong, we're hearing about it faster, we're fixing it faster, and they're happier. And then at the end, once they depart, we're sending that safe travels home, yada, yada. And they're coming back, and the ones who are saying, oh my gosh, we had such a great stay, we are then thanking them for that and sending them a link to a Google review. And we have gotten almost 40 5-star Google reviews in the last 2 weeks.
That is awesome.
So it combines both the auto part of it and the personal touch, and we're having a blast with it. It's really working great for us.
And it really lifts your morale.
Yes.
And then when you save it, you share with your team, it lifts their morale. Happier guests, happier owners, happier team. It's win-win all around, right?
Mm-hmm. Sitting here listening to you guys, I was also telling someone where to go crab.
All right, what else?
I actually had an experience last week where I was staying in a VRBO that I rented through VRBO because I didn't think that it was under management. And we checked into the house, and there was an envelope on the kitchen counter, and inside it was a $50 gift card. And we thought it was from the owner, but it was actually from the management company. And they said, and the note in there said, there's more, there would be more in here if you book direct.
Can I add on to that?
Yes.
First, I love that.
Feel free to use it.
A colleague of ours, John Oden in Nashville, when his guests book, he says, what's your favorite beverage? And you could say adult beverage if that's your line. But I said sake. And when I arrived, there was 2 bottles of sake in the fridge. And I asked him how he justifies that cost. And he says, that's the cost of operating this home. It's just a part of the business, like the electricity is baked into the price of the stay. So I like viewing those kinds of investments that way. And it's otherwise hard to work with margins, but if now part of the cost of the night is $30 for whatever, it starts to get interesting with the reviews, I think, which is a general trend down, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, if there's one thing I'd like you guys to take away from this, we're at a data and revenue management conference, yet we haven't mentioned any of that up here. We've solely talked about the guest experience, but there is a return on experience, the ROE. And as Elaine has said, reviews go up. And as our keynote speakers have talked about, what the review is correlated to the bookings. So it is a full circle. So when you invest in that experience, that brings your margins better. People are willing to pay for it because they want an experience, and it sets you apart. All right, yes?
Hi, Amy with Tybee Vacation Rentals. I love all the conversations we're having around guests, and I think just with, so much demand for the other people we serve, our clients, our owners, of something that we've been doing is making sure we're applying these same rules to our owner arrivals, so that we have those triggers and automations also set up with personalized welcome notes to them, and knowing more about them. Our owner services department is trying to find out what it is that they like and what they don't like, and how particular they are about their homes, so that we're adding personalized gifts and touches if they're celebrating their anniversary or it's their 60th birthday, of making sure that we're including our owners, because everybody wants our properties, right? So it's up to us to treat them with, roll out the red carpet for them as well. And we send them, Elaine too, we send them a post-day survey that goes back, and then we keep those scorecards as well. And, we love to learn about them and record the information in our CRM that we're tracking that.
So building owner loyalty as well.
So on the owner thing, I just want to weigh in on that briefly. Before I came into this industry, I was a private jet pilot for a company called NetJets, and they also have owners, and the owners are owners in these $50 million jets. They spend $100,000 on a round trip across the country. And we were instilled with this idea of treat each owner like they are the only owner. We had over 2 weeks of training on that before we started flying. Had nothing to do with aviation. And when we started the property management company, I just blatantly stole that exact same line and idea. And that idea looked like, if you're on the phone with them, you don't worry about anything else that's happening right now in the company. That is the only reason you exist in the entire world, till you finish that problem, till you take care of that owner to the highest level. How would you treat this person if it was your only home? And we took that idea right down to every decision we made, maintenance-wise, if we build something back to them or not. All kinds of different decisions would filter through that idea of treating them like the only owner.
Excellent, thank you. All right, any more questions, comments, stories? Anybody want to share their critical moment of discovery or recognition in our Greek tragedy up here? Because technically you are the protagonist. It happens to the protagonist, not us supporting players. No. Guys, we got 12 more minutes. And I briefed them to tell them to keep it not too long, because we could literally chat for hours on this subject. But is there anything you guys want to add? No?
I'll just throw this out there. I'm a huge proponent of listing site non-dependence. That's been a mantra that I've been preaching for many, many years. Non-dependence, as in not independent, because you want to use the listing sites, but not dependent on them. Non-dependence. I'm starting to question how realistic, even worthwhile, it is to spend so much time and energy on a full, focused, direct booking campaign when these platforms are so good at driving the cheapest kinds of guests. I'm not going back on my mantra. I'm just starting to wonder if maybe there's a new way to use these amazing tools with our booking strategy. I know David has always had issues with the direct booking movement.
No, I'm a big fan of the direct booking movement and using all the channels. So I had a property manager call me up a couple weeks ago, and they were thinking about pulling their properties off Airbnb and only distributing through us, because we do drive a lot of bookings for them. And I told them not to. You want a diversified lead source, and to not have that is to put your business at risk. Even when we were in property management and owned SmokyMountains.com and took a ton of direct bookings, we were on every available platform out there. And I would say, and I think this is a really important thing to grasp along the lines of what you're talking about there, is to understand that the cost of a booking on a channel is not the profit that channel produces. So for example, if it's a 15% take on Booking.com, and that's what you're paying Booking.com, that is not your potential savings. Look at the profit margin of Booking.com. That is your potential savings if you can achieve that same economy of scale and production level. And so it's fine to allocate different ways, but just understand that if you do it all book direct, you're still going to have a cost associated with driving that booking. It's not that you saved that 15%.
And I think it's going to very much depend upon your area too. So for instance, my brands are in two very different areas, two very different guests that we go after, and we control them very differently. So in Branson, Table Rock Lake, I'm after 3 and 4 generation families. Our smallest place is 4 bedrooms, biggest place is 10 bedrooms. And I don't list those big houses on Airbnb. And my smaller ones, I say small, 4 and 5, they are on Airbnb, but that doesn't mean the calendar's open. And it doesn't mean it's gonna be the same price as my direct site or Vrbo. Vrbo rules Branson big houses. Now, my other brand, Missouri Wine Country, I've kind of got the market on it because there's not a lot there. But that does mean I have to be on all the platforms the guests are looking. But again, that doesn't mean the price is the same. So Airbnb, I jack it up 40%. And what happens? It drives them to find me elsewhere if they're smart. Then I can sift through who's smart and who's not. Makes it really easy. But the thing is I do make more money. Yes?
You mentioned gift bags or departing gift bags. We started giving out gift bags and found them in the trash all the time. And they were logoed bags. Vermont has an anti-plastic bag rule. If you go to the grocery store, you have to pay for paper bags. And they still were throwing them out. Is there how many people do gift bags?
Yeah, I would look at what your guest wants. What drives directly to that guest. So if you're finding them in the bag, that means, or in the trash, that means it's not the right gift for that person. Or it could generally mean their love language is not gifts, period. Someone raised their hand.
I can speak loud enough. So we had that experience before where we were seeing gift bags left behind. We spent an extra 60 cents on gift bags per unit, and we found that everybody was taking them. The brilliant people at Tybee's, combined with Elaine, Elaine has a bag from Twitty Vacation Rentals that's 10 years old.
It's falling apart and I can't throw it away.
It's a refrigerated bag. It was only $1 more.
Okay, so I'm gonna make sure this gets on Facebook. It's a refrigerated bag that only costs $1 more. She's had it for 10 years. It's falling apart. Therefore, she needs to go book at Twitty Vacations again so she can get another bag, right?
Business when I picked up that bag is the craziest thing. And I just
Yeah.
have it next year.
Right. So they knew that a refrigerated bag was more important to their guests than just a regular grocery bag. Yeah.
Or we switched to not having the branded bag, making it about the destination. That's why they're coming there. So ours is a colorful shopping bag with a cute map of the destination, and we ran out of them over a month. I mean, we're running out. We can't keep the bags, so we're using them for also because they are very pretty and they don't look like, oh, here's my logo. Not everybody wants our logo. It really needs to be something fun that you would want.
And Amy, I still have your bag too.
Cool.
We went to the Kentucky and I said that is an absolutely gorgeous bag.
And
We're
I-
starting to
I
think you
think I
just
have
collect
that
bags.
same Twitty bag.
Actually, I just wanted to
Yeah.
echo that. Like when I worked at Microsoft, I worked in product and I worked in marketing, and when we used to produce a lot of swag and stuff at events, and I always found like if you just spend a few extra dollars and get something, like really think about like what are the things that they could use, and then number 2 is spending a few extra dollars to make it something that's really premium. It just makes a big difference. And I saw the same thing, like the things that we spent the extra money on, people would come back show after show and they're like, I still have your bag, I love that thing, and it's like, wow, like it made a difference, right?
And I know that custom floss, costs 31 cents per piece.
Wait, what's the minimum order for that though?
Pardon?
Minimum order for 31 cents?
250.
Okay.
So one gift we do, it does cost a little bit more, is the customized Yetis. You would think you'd have to go order like thousands of these things. I think it's a minimum order of 6 or 12, and it's the same price a Yeti normally costs. And I can guarantee you people aren't going to leave those on the counter.
For sure.
Hey,
Yeah.
Matt, you're going to love this. This is so floss. We went floss before I even knew what it was. But so going with the local and family experience, one of the items that we are trying to do is also blend that local into our gifting. So on Tybee, there is a Tybee Hive company that makes their own honey. And there's a Tybee glass company that we've ordered custom little stained glass pieces that has a made in Tybee. So to give that local flair, it's not, just crappy made in China, swag. It's actually something that has a local personal touch as well for our VIP guest, which we determine as every single repeat guest gets locally homemade cookies, they get local glass, they get local honey, or whatever we happen to have in stock, as well as our owner arrivals. Those are personalized and hopefully locally sourced.
That is so floss.
I feel like I'm at the dentist.
There's another manager that commits $1, I think, per night to a local land conservancy. You could choose any organization in the community that contributes to your well-being. They tell you about it, up front, but also upon departure, they say, we just wanted you to know that a portion of your stay went directly to supporting this community organization, and they said people absolutely love it. Like, people oftentimes then say, I'd like to put in some money too.
I like that. We do that. We do $1 per night to our local CASA, the court-appointed special advocates. And in the booking process, our guests have the opportunity to also match our donation of $1 per night or $1 per person, because we're larger homes, $1 per person could be quite a bit more. And it's amazing to then present a check locally. But I am totally going to swipe the fact that you send an email out saying, hey, a portion of your stay, just that reminder. So it's not just in the beginning, but it's at the end as well. And we're now down to 15 seconds. So thank you all. I hope you've reached the anagnarsis point.
Email newsletters, send them out frequently. Remind people on your list that you have collected their email about property updates. They will book them.
Yep. Thank you.
Took it right down to a second.